Picture your last few months of beauty shopping. Maybe you treated yourself to a luxury cream at a glossy department store counter. Maybe you grabbed a trusted mid-range favorite somewhere else. And maybe, for the everyday things, you picked up a sensible drugstore brand. 3 counters, 3 very different prices, 3 brands you think of as completely separate worlds. Here's the truth that surprises every woman I tell. You may have handed your money to the very same company all 3 times. Let me show you exactly how. Honest note first. Some links below earn me a small commission at no cost to you, and I'm telling you the truth either way. So here's the thing, the beautifully separate packaging is designed to hide. The beauty world looks like hundreds of independent brands, each with its own story, its own founder, its own personality. But step back, and almost all of them roll up into a small handful of giant parent companies. A few corporations own a staggering share of the brands on every shelf, from the cheapest tube at the pharmacy to the most expensive jar at the department store. Let me name the 2 biggest because once you see this, you can't unsee it, and it changes how you shop forever. The first giant is the Estée Lauder companies. Now you'd expect them to own Estée Lauder, obviously. But here's the part that opens eyes. That same company also owns La Mer, the $400 luxury jar. It owns Clinique, the gentle counter favorite so many of us grew up with. It owns MAC, the makeup artist brand. It owns Bobbi Brown, Origins, Aveda, Too Faced, Jo Malone, Tom Ford Beauty, Smashbox. And here's the one that really lands. It also owns The Ordinary, the famous no-nonsense, low-price brand that built its whole identity on being the honest, affordable alternative to overpriced skincare. So, a woman who buys The Ordinary because she's done with luxury markups, and buys La Mer as a once-a-year splurge, and buys Clinique for every day, has shopped at 3 completely different price points, telling herself 3 completely different stories, and paid the same parent company every single time. The second giant is L'Oreal, and the same eye-opener applies. L'Oreal owns Lancôme, the luxury counter brand. It owns Kiehl's, the apothecary-feeling favorite. It owns Urban Decay and NYX in makeup. It owns Maybelline and Garnier at the drugstore. And here's the pairing that always gets a gasp. It owns both CeraVe, the gentle dermatologist-recommended drugstore staple, and Roche-Posay, the pricier pharmacy brand sold a little further up the shelf. So you could be buying your everyday moisturizer, your sensitive skin treatment, and your luxury counter cream from 3 different aisles in 3 different stores, and feeding the very same corporation each time. Now I want to be careful and fair here, because the honest version of this story is more interesting than the angry version, and you deserve the honest one. Let me first answer the obvious question. Why does this happen at all? It's not a conspiracy. It's ordinary business. A big company grows by buying up successful smaller brands, and it makes good sense for them to keep selling each one under its own familiar name, with its own loyal customers, rather than slapping one giant label on everything. So the Clinique counter still feels like Clinique. The drugstore brand still feels like a humble drugstore brand, and you, the shopper, are never given a reason to notice they share an owner. The separateness isn't an accident. It's the whole strategy. Different names let one company sell to you at the luxury counter, the mid-range shelf, and the budget aisle all at once, capturing your dollars no matter which mood or budget you're shopping in that day. This does not mean these products are all secretly identical. They're not. A La Mer formula and a drugstore formula under the same parent really can be different, with different textures and different specific ingredients. Owning a brand is not the same as pouring the same liquid into different bottles. So I'm not going to tell you that you've been buying the same exact cream at 10 times the price. That would be the easy lie, and we don't do those here. But here's what it does mean, and this is the part worth the whole video. These brands share things you were never meant to think about. They often share research labs. They share scientists. They share ingredient technology and patents and manufacturing know-how. When the parent company develops a clever new ingredient or delivery system, that knowledge doesn't stay locked in one brand. It can travel across the family, from the luxury line to the affordable one and back. So the idea that the $400 counter has access to some superior science that the $20 shelf could never dream of, that idea quietly falls apart when you realize the same company, the same labs, and sometimes the same chemists are behind both. Think about what that actually means for the moisturizer in your cart. The big companies don't build a separate world of science for the expensive brand and a lesser one for the cheap brand. They build one engine, one set of labs, one pool of research, and then they pour the results into whichever bottle they choose. A breakthrough proven in the luxury line can show up, a season or two later, in the budget line under the same roof. The premium price doesn't buy you a better laboratory. Often it buys you the same laboratory, an earlier release date, and a far heavier jar. That's a very different thing than the counter wants you to believe you're paying for. And it means something about the story you've been told. The whole premise of the luxury counter is separateness. The lighting, the trained staff, the heavy glass, the hushed tone, all of it is built to make you feel you've left the ordinary world and entered a place of exclusive, superior products. But if the company that makes your exclusive jar is the same company that makes the sensible drugstore tube, then the separateness is theater. Beautiful theater, sometimes worth the ticket, but theater. So let me hand you the practical takeaway, because I never want to just make you cynical, I want to make you smart. First, stop assuming that price tier equals separate, superior science. It very often doesn't. The same corporate brain is frequently behind products 3 aisles and $300 apart. So when you're choosing between a luxury option and an affordable one, don't ask, which company do I trust more? Because it might be the same company. Ask the only question that's ever really mattered. What's actually in the jar, and is that ingredient worth this price? Read the back label. Compare the real ingredients. Let the formula decide, not the counter. Second, this is genuinely good news for your wallet, not bad news. Because if the affordable brand and the luxury brand share labs and ingredient technology, then choosing the affordable one is very often not a downgrade at all. It can be the same level of science in plainer packaging. The dermatologist recommended drugstore moisturizer that happens to share a parent with a fancy pharmacy line. That's not a compromise. That's you getting the family's good science without paying for the theater. Knowing who owns what isn't depressing, it's freeing. It hands you permission to spend less without feeling like you're settling. And third, you don't have to boycott anyone or memorize a corporate chart to use this. You just have to let go of one belief, the belief that the expensive counter is a separate, higher world. Once that belief is gone, you shop with clear eyes. You buy the luxury thing when you genuinely want the experience and can afford it, on purpose, as a pleasure. And you buy the affordable thing the rest of the time, knowing it's very often the same science underneath, without 1 ounce of feeling like you've come down in the world. Let me make it real with one scene you'll recognize. You're standing at a department store, and a lovely salesperson is explaining why the cream in her hand, the one with the triple-digit price, is in a different league entirely from anything you'd find at the drugstore. She may be completely sincere, she may believe it, but you now know that her luxury brand and that drugstore brand might answer to the very same head office, draw on the very same research, and lean on the very same ingredient patents. So you can listen politely, nod, and then ask the only thing that matters. Can I see the ingredients? Because the back of her jar and the back of the drugstore jar will tell you far more than her script ever could. And sometimes you'll find the active ingredients you actually came for, sitting right there on the cheaper label, doing the same job for 1/10 of the price. That's not a trick, that's just the curtain pulled back. So here's the whole truth in one breath. A small number of giant companies own most of the brands you shop, across every price point. Estée Lauder owns the luxury jar and the budget honesty brand. L'Oreal owns the luxury counter and the drugstore staple. They don't make identical products, but they share the labs, the scientists, and the science, which means the wall between exclusive and affordable is far thinner than the prices suggest. You've been shopping at 3 different counters. You may well have been paying the same company 3 times. Now that you know, the counter loses its spell. You stop paying for the story and start paying for what's in the jar. And that one shift, made by a smart woman who's finally seen behind the curtain, will save you more money over the next 10 years than any sale, any coupon, or any loyalty program they'll ever offer you. And let me leave you with the gentlest version of this, because I don't want you walking away angry at your own past purchases. You didn't do anything wrong. You were never given the map. The whole system was built so you couldn't see the connections, and you shopped honestly inside the world you were shown. There's no shame in that. The only thing that changes from today is that the map is in your hands now. You can still buy the lovely luxury jar. You can still enjoy the counter, the lighting, the little ceremony of it. You'll just do it knowing exactly what you're paying for and what you're not. And that knowledge is the most valuable thing you'll ever carry into a store. That's the honest truth about who you're really buying from. Take it to every counter you visit from now on and watch how differently they treat the woman who clearly knows. I'll see you in the next one.